Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to be painting this beautiful fast flowing woodland stream inspired by the great Ron Ranson. I'm going to be using this photograph from Pixabay as inspiration, but I'm going to really simplify it a lot to make it sort of easy for beginners to have a go at. So the most important thing for this painting is to keep it really loose, really fresh, and to just create the impression of the stream and the forest rather than any details. First thing is to get in a simple pencil outline. You can see I've got the shape of the stream, the distant trees and the rocks on the riverbank and a few rocks in the stream itself. I've left the link to the Pixabay photograph below, so please use that to simplify your drawing from, or pause the video here and copy my simplified sketch if you'd rather. I'm using cold pressed Millford paper. It's taped to my board with ordinary decorator's masking tape, and my board's at an angle of about 45 degrees so that the flow and gravity will help me to paint. So first things first, I've made up quite a watery or milky mixture of ultramarine blue, cad yellow, with a little bit of burnt sienna in it to sort of grey it down a bit and neutralise it. And I'm just roughly using the tips, the corner and the belly of my Pro Arte Ron Ranson hake brush to very loosely put in the distant trees. I can dip in and out of those various colours to change the hue slightly. Here there's more cad yellow, and you can see it's brightening the foliage up where the trees, where there's a clearing in the trees in the far distance. So I want to try and keep the light in that area. I can start building up with some burnt sienna, building up my riverbanks. Just with the mid-tones at the moment, and putting some of this mid-tone colour around the edges, bringing my rocks and stream banks into the water. I'm not painting the water at all at the moment. I should do that last. At the moment I'm just sort of setting the scene for the water by painting the riverbanks, the rocks and the trees. While it's all still a bit damp, so I can get some nice soft diffusions, I'm using a really rich mixture of Paynes grey and putting in my shadows and allowing them to run into the wet paint here and there to softly diffuse, whilst keeping some hard edges here and there. So I've got my hard and soft edges and my lost and found edges, and I'm building up my tonal values underneath the rocks, especially where they touch and go into the water, and on my stream banks, and where there's no light hitting the trees, so they're in deep shadow further back into the painting. And now a favourite technique of Ron Ranson's, he used his fingernail or the corner of a plastic card to etch in a few tree trunks in the distance through the thick damp paint. This pushes away the paint and you can just see the paper through, so it gives you just the impression of the light hitting the trunks of a few trees. And then I'm going to do the same to bring out a couple of mid-ground trees, bringing the card, scraping it through that very dark paint so that this tree is pushed forward and it looks closer to us. And then you can see I'm running the card corner, the rounded corner, through the area where all my rocks are, and the card is pushing away the paint. The dark paint is pooling around underneath and it's giving me these beautiful easy rock shapes. Ron Ranson loved doing this. He called it a trick, but I think it's a really useful and valid technique for loose watercolour painting, as long as you don't overdo it. I think I've got just about enough there, so I can then put in a bit more shadow where I think I need it, bearing in mind that it will soften back and lighten a little bit as the paint dries. So that's the rocks and trees just about finished. I now need to leave it to dry completely, then come back and put in just a few touches in the stream itself. Here it is, nice and dry. So I'm mixing up now a very watery mixture with some of the colours I've already used. The cad yellow, the ultramarine blue, a bit of Payne's grey and some burnt sienna in it. I'm going to use the tips of the hake brush just to put in some quite watery, small, narrow bands of colour, just to give the impression of the fast flowing water tumbling over the rocks and moving through the stream bed. I'm going to make sure I leave lots of white unpainted paper here. This will help to keep it looking fresh and give me lots of light on the water, and hopefully will contribute to the illusion of the water moving along the stream bed. I'm trying to follow the direction of the stream and the running water with my brush marks. I can get some dry brush by sort of skipping over the texture of the paper, and that gives quite a good effect. And if there's any areas where I think I've gone in a bit heavy, I can get my 3/4 inch flat brush and just feather the flat brush through, distributing the paint a little bit more subtly. So then back to the hake brush and a bit more Payne's grey added to the mixture, and dry brush a slightly darker sweep of this fast moving water, or the suggestion of it, across the front. And I think I'm just about done now. So with my small calligraphy brush, Ron Ranson would have used a rigger brush or any liner brush, anything with a fine point. I'm pulling through just a few little branches across that gap of unpainted paper where there's the clearing in the woods. So I think I'm going to call it finished now and remove the tape and see how it looks with a clean white border. Well, I'm hoping that that you've enjoyed watching this tribute to Ron Ranson and his amazing loose watercolour techniques that have inspired so many over the years. And I hope you'll give something like this a go. I think it's a really nice way to really get interested in and practice your landscape paintings. Of course, this loose technique takes quite a bit of practice. It takes getting a good sort of working sketch in to start with, so that you can use that as a roadmap to follow when you come and put your paint in. And if we look closely, you can see the marks made by the corner of the card, and the tips of the hake brush are really effective, along with the amount of unpainted paper that's been left for added light and sparkle. Now here's a more accurate photograph of how the colours look now that they've dried. My studio lets a lot of light in through the windows, which is lovely, but it sort of bleaches out the filming process a little bit. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and please take a look at the description below for the link to the photograph in Pixabay and also a list of my materials. Thanks so much for watching. Please click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you click on the bell icon, you'll be notified whenever I post a new demo. And thank you so much to my lovely Patreon group who support this channel. I'll see you again soon, and happy painting. Bye.